how did you get to know about menstruation and was that experience awkward for you?
So I think I got to know about menstruation in 8th or 9th standard, and the teacher it was a part of a chapter obviously, and the teacher was very frank, very open-minded, and she delivered the topic to us very normally. She didn't really think about it as a taboo or anything. So she was very front open and normal about it. So that's why I think it wasn't really awkward when I got to when the she was teaching about this topic. Everyone in class was very normal and received it just like any other lecture. And I think because I had heard my sister and mother talking about periods earlier as well, so I was kind of aware of what the concept is and what menstruation means somewhat. I had an idea, so because of that reason also I don't think it was awkward at all. So yeah, in fact actually it made me more aware about the situation of women and realize what my sister and mother go through every month. So more than awkward, it was enlightening and helped me improve my perception towards this concept and
What are
situation.
some of the weirdest myths about menstruation that you have heard?
Oh, this is actually a very good question. So, there are like many myths I've heard, some of them being like, you can't enter a temple when you're menstruating, that makes no sense, or even a kitchen. But one of the weirdest ones I heard was that you can't have sex when you're on your periods because it might kill the male. That was just.
Growing up, was menstruation a topic you were kept away from, whether it be in school or your household?
Well, I was from a boarding school, an all boys boarding school, so the discussion on periods was barely there. Yes, when I was back home, my mom and my sister, this discussion actually never came up. Uh, the only thing that I can recall is that when they were going through periods, I could make out that they are not going to the mandir which is at home, nor they were going to the kitchen. So those are the two things that I distinctly remember. That was not only limited to my mum and my sister, but also to all, whatever was my extended family or friends. So the knowledge about this actually came up after I got married. That's when I was I was aware, I was told how it moves. That's when I realized how common this subject is and how much attention it needs.
When you were first told about menstruation, what were your initial thoughts?
Uh, as a matter of fact, nobody told me about menstruation. Uh, Let me tell you, my father was a doctor, my grandfather was a doctor. They owned a hospital, a very big hospital, and knowing about menstruation, and it is specific to the women, is just an accidental to me. So it was not that people spoke to me openly about it. It was just in accidental I came across. When you're talking about my feeling about it, it was not a very great feeling. I just can't even express in words what was my feeling. However, as I grew and now I'm a father of daughters, so now I personally feel it's a normal phenomenon in women. If you have any other specifics to ask, you please go ahead, and I will be very happy to answer.
No questions, thank you.
As the father of a daughter, do you think it's important for young boys to be present during conversations about menstruation?
Yeah, I think it is very important. Right? So, I'm the father of two girls, but yeah, I definitely feel that boys should be aware of menstruation. So, you know what, in US, feminine hygiene products, they are tagged as luxury, right? But in many parts of the world, women and girls are too poor to even buy or afford regular pads or tampons, right? And it gets worse. In a lot of developing countries, girls or women, right, they have to miss school or office during the period days because of the stigma associated with it. Now the question is, right, why does it all happen? Right? There are multiple socio-economic or religious factors, but one simple reason is 50% of our population doesn't go through periods, right? So the period education doesn't deserve the attention that it ideally should, right? So the more our boys understand the concept of periods and they are aware of what happens during that time, uh, they will start to appreciate the experience of their girl peers better, right? And what that will do is help erase the stigma, shame, or even the teasing that is associated with periods. It will also instill a bit of compassion, right, for their sisters, friends, mothers, and all the future women in their lives, right? So I think the simple message is bringing the other half of the population into the fold of period education is very, very important.
What are your thoughts on menstrual leaves at workplaces?
India as a country has very few women participating in the workforce, and if India is to progress at a much greater speed, it's important that more and more women participate in the workforce, and they get the flexibility and are enabled to go to work more comfortably. Menstrual leaves is one important factor which allows women to work while still maintaining comfort and control over their own personal and professional lives in their times when they need certain comfort and relaxation. So if we are to move forward and see a more diverse workforce, a more equal opportunity country, it's important to allow certain benefits which are actually really necessities to women.
What do you think is the solution to normalizing the topic of menstruation?
Hi, my name is Mayuk. I'm Ridhima's father. I think it's a normal physiological process, and we should not make it a taboo and talk more about it openly, and educate people more on the whole process, and not to make it a big deal. I think this should help to normalize it. Thank you.
Personally, do you think menstruation is socially acceptable or is it still a taboo?
As per me, with the generations, I think the menstruation is becoming more socially acceptable, especially in the cities for sure. But in the rural areas, it's still considered a taboo. We do have a lot of movies around it, which is coming and, educating them about the menstruation cycle. I think it's a God's way of cleansing a woman's body, which the men do not get that privilege. There are certain laws in the temples where they don't allow women during the menstruation. I think those laws are very archaic and they definitely need to go a change. I would say that menstruation is socially acceptable and we all need to work towards making it more and more acceptable. Thank you.
These questions were a great way for Flow members to spark important conversations about periods in our households. Let's normalize such discussions and create a more empathetic and understanding atmosphere.